Hello and welcome to the 100th episode of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
And I'm Bill, and we're excited that it is our 100th show. And I'm coming to you from LA at 5:30 a.m.
And I'm in the A&R booth at work on the soundstage.
So a little bit trying circumstances sometime when we travel, but we'll do our best. So, Jason, let's talk about our NFL playoff weekend.
Well, we get completely chalk. No upsets.
Yep.
And really only one game you could argue with the Eagles, the only ones that even had a chance.
That game was interesting because that game seemed to turn on the fake punt.
It did. And obviously the Alshon Jeffrey not catch at the end hurt them quite a bit.
That was big. That was big because they were marching and they were eating clock. It was good. That was sad. I would have liked to see that was a good story if the Eagles would have been able to come back after that horrendous start.
Yeah, because I feel like Nick Foles didn't play that great, so it's much easier. I mean, if the Eagles had gone on to win this game and who knows what else they did, then I think you have a quarterback controversy for real.
Yeah, but I think you're going to have part of one, but we'll see how it goes. But so it gives us the Saints and the Rams, which was the best. Well, we'll save that for a minute. And New England, it was worse than I expected.
It was everything I expected. Just when the Steelers beat them this year, and we watched Tom Brady, and it looked like Tom Brady was, even if a guy was close to him, he was throwing off his back foot, avoiding the hit. And you thought maybe he doesn't want to be hit anymore. But now you can see he was like, you know what? We already have at least a first round bye locked away. I'm just not going to get hurt until the playoffs start.
And that Charger line didn't get within a foot of them the whole time. His jersey was right at the end of the game.
And they, James White caught 15. And again, this is an interesting stat that I saw. It's that not only did the Patriots we have to give the caveat that the Chargers linebackers are hurt and they had to play that small package that worked last week the entire game. They didn't really have a lot of other options to go to defensively. But when the Patriots had James White in the ball, they threw the ball 98% of the time. And obviously he had 15 catches. And then when Sony Michel was in, they ran the ball 84% of the time. And when Sony DeVille and the fullback Devlin were in, they ran the ball 93% of the time. So they weren't even being tricky. They were just, this is what we're going to do. We're showing you what we're going to do, and we're just going to do it like a dominant performance. And
what do we say if you play a zone against Tom Brady?
We've seen it as Steeler fans. He just destroys it.
He just loves a zone. And all he does is just have those guys go in, stop in the middle of the zones, catch passes like Edelman, and just drives me crazy.
And their defense, the Chargers had a fairly potent offense this year, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. And New England shut them right down. It was about 35-7 at half, or 28-7. It was 35-7 early in the third quarter at the very least.
It was over. They weren't going to do anything. I saw Rivers lost his composure. It was not a pretty sight.
No, and like you said, Joey Bosa, Ingram, the kid out of USC, none of them got anywhere near Brady this week.
No. So now let's turn to the Chiefs game.
The Chiefs, took care of business. Mahomes made some Mahomes plays. Tyreek Hill made some Tyreek Hill plays. Williams looked pretty good as the backup running back, or backup to the backup running back.
Yeah, he did. He looked real good, I thought. I thought their defense played better than it's played all year.
Yeah. Well, I think when you play, they've got a couple guys back that were not healthy, and they're playing at home. And Kansas City is a home field advantage for sure, which hopefully they'll implement next week.
Which is interesting too when you look at what time is the Saints game?
I assume it's the late game then, right? Because New England's the early game, or they both play.
New England is at 6:40.
I think the Saints game is the 3:00 game then, or in my time it's 3:00. I don't know what time it is.
So I'm kind of wondering about that. One's in a dome, and the other one's going to play in like 28-degree weather. Crazy,
right? Which again, Kansas City gets.
But it was the Rams and the Saints, the best scoring game of the year. Why wouldn't that be the primetime game? That's what I don't understand.
because
If you're going to put
Patrick
one,
Mahomes
that's the one that makes sense.
and Tom Brady is Tom Brady.
I guess. It's a team everybody loves and a team everybody hates. So, I mean, that's probably the ratings will be through the roof.
Yeah. I mean, people have compared Mahomes already to the Steph Curry of the NFL. Just sort of that, son of a former player, seems super nice, does some incredible things that other players can't do on the court, and is just a very likable, gregarious person that, people gravitate towards.
Yeah.
Obviously there'll be the backlash just like there was with Steph, but right now, I mean, you watch him, like he makes plays that, he does make throws that other quarterbacks, really don't make.
No.
I've heard him practice even behind the back passes.
I saw him do the no-look pass on TV. He was demonstrating how he does the no-look pass.
Yeah.
And he was throwing it at a target, and he hit the target every time.
Yeah, his arm strength is ridiculous. And again, like when he throws crossbody, he doesn't have to, like, even when you watch somebody like Aaron Rodgers, who's an incredible arm talent, Rodgers still squares his shoulders and gets something back to the pass, whereas Mahomes is able just to fling it with his arm just across the field with incredible velocity and accuracy, like you said. He's
absolutely a joy to watch. So we'll see.
And you saw that interview they did, and he said that a lot of the draft evaluators gave him a third-round grade coming into the draft last year, or whenever he came out.
Because it was a Texas Tech system, I guess.
Yeah, but third round? I mean, granted, the Chiefs, and they traded up and got him at 12, so.
I know there was a lot of eyebrows raised when Andy Reid traded up and took him that early.
Yeah. But again, his arm talent is second to none. And then you got, he seems like a great person. He's the son of a former athlete. And that does seem to hold some weight. Like sons of former athletes seem to adjust well to professional sports living, I guess.
Yeah. And are exposed to things at an earlier age. Mm-hmm. And, understand talent. Mm-hmm. So we haven't talked about Dallas and the Rams. I was very disappointed in Dallas's performance. I was surprised. I thought that game would be closer than it was.
Well, the Rams had 200 yards. And again, you talk about defense. Like Dallas's defense had been putting pressure on everybody. They got no pressure on Goff.
No.
And they get 200-yard rushers, including one to C.J. Anderson.
So the Dallas-New Orleans game, that would seem to me to have been the outlier. Like that, how could that game have happened with the same talent that we saw the last couple of weeks with Dallas? I don't understand it. Unless New Orleans just did not take that game as serious as they would have, because I don't have no idea how Dallas played like that game.
Well, to be fair to New Orleans, that was a Thursday night game, and Thursday night games are a little bit wacky.
Yeah, but it was in New Orleans, right?
It was, but Thursday night, I mean, they just played Sunday. I think Thursday night's proved. I mean, the Steelers just destroyed Carolina, but I mean, that was their best game of the year. I think there's a
typical game for the Steelers all year too.
Yeah, and Carolina. Carolina bad, just.
I was ready to buy Super Bowl tickets that night.
I know.
All right, well, so brings us to our predictions this week.
Let's start with the NFC. My home city of New Orleans right now. Rams are coming in.
I still don't see New Orleans losing at home.
No, I think the only reason I don't see New Orleans losing at home is I still don't trust Jared Goff as a quarterback. I know he's put up good numbers all year. I don't think he played that well in that Rams game, even though they won. Mm-hmm. And I think in the Dome, which is incredibly loud, I've seen that firsthand, I don't see them pulling it out. And I think the Saints are playing pretty well on defense right now, too. So,
although I was very impressed with the two-prong running attack.
Mm-hmm. And that is I know they talk about how Sean McVay, basically 90% of their formations are in 11 personnel. So it's always, one running back, one tight end, three, they run out of the same thing. So like, even when, they don't give a lot of tells, like they do everything out of the same packages. So they run all their play action, they run all their regular sets, they run all their running plays. So you can't really look for tells,
No.
Which, 5 years ago that was considered like how archaic is this? They're running out of the same formation, they're not switching everything up and going crazy. But it's very efficient what they do. But again, I just don't see New Orleans losing at home right now.
I don't either. So that turns us to New England, Kansas City.
And they played earlier in the year in New England, and New England won, I think, 43-40.
On a field goal with less than a minute left, and in a game where Mahomes threw 2 interceptions and I think had a third turnover.
Yeah, he came out and he looked real shaky in that first quarter.
He did. They made up a lot of ground in that game.
They did.
That was in New England. This is in Kansas City.
It is. But I think this is all of New England. Whereas during the year, I think we got everything they needed to win New England. I think they wanted a bye, and they didn't care if they were on the road or at home. I mean, they'd obviously prefer to be at home, but they just looked like a completely different team in so many ways on Sunday. Brady in the pocket. I mean, he had to avoid hits, but he looked sure of himself. Gronk played a nice game despite not having huge stats. Sony Michel, best game of his year.
Yeah.
I want the Kansas City Chiefs to win. I'm ready for the Mahomes era to win. I want Andy Reid to, get to a Super Bowl and maybe win one. He seems like a good guy. But I can't pick against it, Belichick and Brady. I just can't do it as much as I want to.
And I'm right with you. As much as I want Kansas City to win, as much as I hate the Patriots, it's January, and it's the Patriots. I don't see it either. So I'm going to go with the Patriots, not necessarily in a shootout. I think the game will be in the 20s.
I think in the 20s as well. I think it might have a final score really that's slightly was, but I think and I'm very sad about that. But, just like that Lego sculpture, he is the GOAT.
He is the GOAT. I mean, I don't argue that at all.
I mean, I think
he has that will to win.
Yeah, he's been to, 13 AFC championship games in his career, 8 Super Bowls, 5 Super Bowl victories so far.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's incredible.
You can't match those numbers. There's not an argument,
No, and he's really only had one major injury that year where he probably missed the last 12 or 13 games of the season with that knee injury.
And I think I would say, though, despite having arguments with some New England people here, I think 5 is the right number of Super Bowl wins for them. I think for, the close games they lost to the Giants.
They also had a couple close wins.
They squeaked by against the Eagles kind of blew that game. They squeaked by. Carolina made a nice push at the end. Seahawks. Obviously, the first against the Rams,
Yeah.
There were times they could have lost. And then, much like, people argue, against our Steelers with the immaculate reception, like the tuck rule was going to be one of the most infamous plays in NFL history that led to the beginning of their whole dynasty. So, they're not without, scandal, but you look at what they've done as a franchise in this new and modern era with free agency and everything else, and it's unmatched.
Speaking of that game, the tuck rule game, would you believe Adam Vinatieri missed a field goal and an extra point?
I know.
In the snow. And that's what people were saying. Now he misses one in the snow.
Yeah. Well, now his beard is the color of snow as well. So
I felt bad for him. He's had such a great career. And to have a game like that, I felt really bad for him.
I think the only good thing is I don't think those kicks would have made the difference. I think the game's closer, but I don't think the outcome's any different.
Probably not, but the field goal was at a time it could have brought them back a little bit. The extra point, no, that was irrelevant.
Still sad to see.
Very.
We'll stick with the NFL for a little bit, and we're going to have our couple minutes of Steeler talk.
And the drama known as Antonio Brown. So the odds makers are saying 2-1 he becomes a 49er.
Yes. I'm wondering if there's a dark horse team that's going to throw Pittsburgh a first round. I mean, if you're one of these teams in the playoffs right now, if you're the Colts, if you're, I'm trying to think of other, any of the teams that have been eliminated, like obviously Dallas already gave up their first round pick for a wide receiver. But if you're the Colts or the Eagles or one of these teams, like you're telling me you wouldn't want 2 years of Antonio Brown for your first, who are you going to get in the first round this year that's going to get you any closer to the Super Bowl than Antonio Brown?
I think they're going to get a two for him. I think they're going to get a first round pick for him.
I don't think
they're going to get number 2 pick from the Niners, though.
No. But if they got this year's third, next year's first or something, I'd be fine with that. Honestly, I want a first.
Yeah,
I want another first round pick. If Amari Cooper is a first round pick, Antonio Brown under team control at a pretty reasonable price for 3 years is certainly a first round pick.
I agree.
No matter what, quote unquote,
plus one first round plus probably a middle, some kind of a 3rd through 6th pick to go with it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But the Steelers also lost Mike Munchak, who you could argue was their best coach.
Yeah.
And he took a lateral move. I mean, he's a free agent coach, but he had that line, in Denver. But that offensive line was great. So
Denver gets their first choice as head coach and their second choice as head coach on the same staff.
I know. And surprisingly, that apparently it's not going to be awkward.
I've heard it said that Munchak was really wanted to move to Denver to be closer to his family.
That's what I heard as well.
That was a determining factor. So let's hope that's the case.
I'm sure that is definitely part of the case, but I think, the drama and the chaos and all the other stuff surrounding Pittsburgh right now probably doesn't help keep him there.
No. And somebody sent me a little cartoon the other day as a gift. They sent me a picture of the Titanic.
Uh-huh.
It goes below the waves with Steeler logos on the smokestacks.
I mean, when you look at all the talent they've had, and when they did have Ben, Brown, and Bell all in their primes, along with everybody else they had on that team, and the fact that they didn't even make one Super Bowl with that group.
You know what? It's almost comparable to, the Atlanta Braves only won one World Series and they were in the playoffs all those years.
Yeah, it's true.
This is comparable to that. This is a team that consistently underperformed with a lot of talent.
Yeah. And again, it wasn't just in big games. It was against, they lost so many games to bad teams that they cost themselves first round buys and home field here and there and just little things that may have made the difference. So, yeah, just a mess. And now it's all coming to an end. We just have Ben left, old Ben.
And Juju.
Yeah. But of that, originally talented group. And Emmanuel Sanders made his voice heard that, Ben is not a leader, that he's a negative influence on a lot of the players in the locker room. And he didn't completely admonish, obviously, Antonio Brown, but made it clear that, Ben is not a kind of guy you want leading your football team.
No, but I think there's some when the Steelers made that choice to let him go and give Antonio Brown the money, I think that still lingers too.
Yeah. You look at the Steelers, when they won those Super Bowls with Roethlisberger, those weren't Roethlisberger's teams. He was the quarterback, but they weren't his teams.
No.
You had Palomalu and all these veterans.
Hines Ward and Bettis.
Hines Ward, Bettis, so, that's when he was he was playing, he played well, but he wasn't like the leader of the team. So.
And you could argue they won the first Super Bowl game without him, in spite of him.
True. And although we do have Josh Dobbs and Mason Rudolph, there is a third candidate coming into the NFL draft this year who's being projected everywhere from the first overall pick to third round. And that is the Heisman Trophy winner, Kyler Murray.
Yeah. So do you think he's legit, or do you think he's really trying to force the A's to put him on the 40-man roster?
In the interviews that I've seen and from interviews of people talking to him, he loves playing football. And I think we talked about this before. Like, you can play football at quarterback, wash out after a couple years, and maybe still have a baseball career. And I don't mean to knock baseball, but I don't think you can go the other way. I know Drew Henson technically did that, but it didn't work out well for him either. I think if you want to be an NFL quarterback and that's part of your dream, you got to go now.
So where do you think he goes in the draft?
I think he goes top 10. Depending on who you listen to, he's really like 5'9 3/4, maybe even 5'10.
Mm-hmm.
which basically puts him at the same height as Breeze and Russell Wilson and a couple of these other guys. And you look at he's got incredible feet. He throws the ball incredibly. He's a great player. I don't,
Yeah, I mean, if he was
a natural
6
leader,
foot 2, he's the number one pick in the draft.
and it's not even a question. Yeah. I mean, there's talk that, the Cardinals want to trade Rosen and then pick him. Although I don't think they could do that on, to save face. But, you get rumors like that out there too. So
what's interesting is the timing of it all. I mean, it's a very weak quarterback draft.
it is.
Okay. Then you have the fact that if the A's really want him, and it comes down to it, he's going to be able to push to be on that 40-man roster, get a major league salary, and be guaranteed placement at a certain level in the organization because he's on that 40-man roster. So I find that really interesting. And I want to see how this all plays out. I mean, he's got more leverage than anybody since John Elway.
Yeah, without a doubt. But yeah, when you talk about this quarterback cast, right now the first quarterback off the board is Dwayne Haskins, who had a fantastic year for Ohio State, but that was really his first year playing quarterback. And then you've got, Drew Lock. You got the kid from Duke. The guy from Oregon who had a lot of questions about him anyway. He's obviously going back to school to play with his brother.
Yep.
I mean, there's, I don't think there's a guy out there that you would, Haskins would maybe be the only guy you would take over him. Because Haskins had a phenomenal year, looks really good, he has all the physical tools.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I don't think you would take Drew Lock or the kid out of Duke over Kyler Murray. I don't think you'd want to pass on him like that.
No, it's you know what, Jason? This is one of those things that this one could get you the Super Bowl or get you fired.
Yeah,
that kind of a pick.
But I think he's closer to Super Bowl than fired. I mean, again, obviously health, but I think the way that, the way the rules of the NFL have worked, and with some of these offensive coordinators, like I don't think the height difference is going to be that big of a deal. It wasn't with Doug back in the day.
Yeah, depending on your offense.
Yeah, I mean, Doug Flutie had success in the NFL, and I don't know how tall he was. But, Breeze, Russell Wilson, I mean, they're still two of the top quarterbacks in football, and they're not, 6'4", 6'5", Adonises by any stretch. So
no, and we saw, he's basically a shorter version of Lamar Jackson with probably a more accurate arm.
Yeah.
And we saw Lamar Jackson's ability to take a mediocre Browns offense and get it in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Interesting to see it.
Baker Mayfield's not exactly a tower of man either. Isn't he like about 6 feet tall, flat? I don't know. I thought Baker was shorter. Yeah. I thought Baker Mayfield was shorter. Not under 6 feet tall, but not really super tall guy.
And I think the year that Baker Mayfield had also is influencing this, since they both played in the same system.
Of course.
So we'll see what this plays out. Any NBA talk?
Well, I know we've, spoke. I mean, I still call him a choke artist when it really matters, but James Harden has just been on an insane tear lately. He broke Kobe's record for most consecutive 30-point games, and he just dropped 57 in a win last night. He's just as on fire as anybody I've ever seen play basketball right now.
I think it's bizarre they keep track of how many dribbles he has during a game.
I mean, he does still travel and flop, but I mean, it's unreal what he's doing right now.
Well, he dribbled the ball, I think, the other night 487 times. And I don't, I've never seen that stat before, so I don't know if that's ridiculously high or, I have no idea. But since they're keeping the stat, I think they're saying that he not only has to have the ball in his hand, he has to have the ball in his hand for a significant amount of time.
Right. When you look at Klay Thompson, who dropped, 40-something the other night with 4 dribbles?
Yeah.
Which is on the complete opposite end.
Yeah. But they've come back from a very bad start to become a really relevant team. Mm-hmm. I think the West is very, very interesting. But Boogie Cousins, I think, comes back this week.
He does. I'm very interested to see what that wrinkle is. That's,
I'm interested to see how that works in. But it doesn't have to work in real well right now, as long as it works in by May.
Yes.
So that's going to be really interesting. If
And I really think our former friends at the Orlando Magic could really throw a few playoff wrenches out there because I think Simmons, Terrence Ross, and Vucevic are all on expiring deals. They're all taking up minutes from guys that you need to develop, and I think they could all contribute to big. They could contribute to good teams. You know.
you've been on this Magic trade thing for a while now, and they haven't done anything yet.
Well, they're in talks to acquire Dennis Smith Jr. from the Mavericks. I'll be interested to see what they do. Part of me, just because I enjoy him as a player, I would like to see Aaron Gordon move to Dallas and get to play with Luka Doncic because I think the Magic have destroyed that poor kid's career. I think he's incredibly talented, and I just don't think they ever put him in a position to succeed, despite the fact that he still puts up pretty good numbers from time to time. But I think if he was a point guard like Luka Doncic, I think he would look like Blake Griffin from like 10 years ago.
Ooh, speaking of Blake Griffin, did you walk away from
Yeah.
that one? I know he tried to explain that's his routine. He always runs off the court that way, but there's no way that that's what happened.
No. I don't mind when things like that happen. Like I know, be the bigger man, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, as much as it's a business, it's personal,
I think he was hurt. I think he took it as a slap at his talent. And I wouldn't have probably shook his hand either.
No, and I don't blame him. Like, again, like you said, I don't blame him. I think, people can talk about how it's not a good, it's a fight, he got hurt and he just, he didn't flip him off or yell at him. He just,
He could have done a Baker Mayfield on him and stopped and stared at him and then walked away.
Right. He just, ignored him.
Well, you've got some good entertainment news.
I do. I loved the first season of True Detective. Between people like you and everyone I knew and trying to watch the first episode 2 times and falling asleep, I gave up on season 2. But we don't need to discuss all the reasons that show was going to be a failure for season 2. It was rushed and all sorts of other stuff. But so far, season 3, I watched the first 2 episodes and I'm completely in. I'm hooked. I love it. It's like a really good old mystery, like a noir sort of mystery book. The lead, I'm going to screw up his name, but he's phenomenal in all 3 because it takes place in 3 timelines: 1980, 1990, and 2015. And the aging process they do on the show looks phenomenal, and his acting is outstanding. And then his partner is played by Stephen Dorff from the movie Blade, the first one, the great one.
Okay.
And he's really good. I was a little nervous about it, but he's fantastic. And it's got a compelling story, too.
It's
a good mystery.
All right, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to, I have it taped. I'm going to watch it this week.
Yes.
I'm excited about it. I'm also excited about what's the one that comes on about the Black Dahlia at the end of the month, next week or 2 weeks?
I know you discussed that here before. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but that looks really good too.
Something in the Night, I think it's called.
Yes. I think that's it. But it's nice that True Detective, and it feels like a True Detective, because like I said, you have the multiple timelines.
I Am the Night.
Yeah. And you have, the different parts about memory and telling the story from, almost like 3 unreliable narratives all happening all at once, trying to piece together the story. It's just really well done. I don't know what else to say. It's great.
Good.
You had a birthday recently, so happy birthday on the air, obviously, or on the pod.
I had a very nice birthday, and that brings me to my food moment. Dan took me to dinner at Dan Tana's, which is a really old Hollywood / it's down the street from the Troubadour, so I'd say it's Hollywood, not Beverly Hills, but really old Italian red and white tablecloth restaurant.
Nice.
And we had reservations, and we went in there, and people kept trying to get in, and it was packed, but it wasn't loud. But it was packed with people 50 years of age and older. So a lot of people going there for a lot of years.
Okay.
And so when I went in and I hadn't decided what I was going to have, and I looked, there was a guy sitting at the bar having veal parm and spaghetti bolognese, because that's what comes. You can either have spaghetti marinara or spaghetti bolognese with your entree. So I ordered the veal parm and the spaghetti bolognese, and it was tremendous. And I could see why that restaurant is so successful, why it still is so popular. It was really, really good.
Very cool. You went veal like in Godfather. Try the veal.
I figure they had 13 different veal dishes on the menu. That tells me that that's what they consider their specialty.
Yes.
Then on the way home, we stopped at the iconic Ron's Donuts.
From Grand Theft Auto fame.
Yes. And you got some donuts and apple fritters for the next day. And so that was fun. I mean, that place is unbelievably busy. It's only a drive-through or a walk-up like an ice cream stand.
Oh, okay.
But it's actually dangerous if you're in line because cars are going everywhere.
And do they meet that taste-wise? Are they?
Yeah. The mom said the apple fritter was really good. And I had some chocolate cream donuts. They were tremendous. It was really good.
Nice.
Not outrageously priced. So that was good. I'm probably going to try and go somewhere tonight before I go to the comedy club. And then I will go to the Grillo Cafe on Friday morning before we fly out. But
nice.
All my favorites.
Well, it looks like we may have a slight audio glitch moving forward. So I'm going to wrap up episode 100. We'll be back next week. And we'll know who's in the Super Bowl. Have some more NBA talk. Probably more food talk.
Definitely more.
So until next week.